welcome to Boo Crew Case Files. I'm your host, Bree Schroeder. Joining me today is Katrina.
Hello.
So, we are live, but not live, if you will, Katrina. We are trying to recreate, or at least be part of an experience with what's about to actually happen here in the next couple minutes. Do you have any idea what this is?
I have no idea. Please do enlighten me.
Well, you asked. One of the greatest disasters occurred in Spokane on September 6, 1890. Located at what is now the intersection of Division and Sprague in downtown Spokane, a crew of men worked to clear rock to make way for the Northern Pacific freight yards. An article for the Spokesman Review from April 15, 2010 recounts previous press reports of the events. The exact number of railroad workers who died on the rock cutter that day was never precisely determined, but 24 were accounted for and 2 presumed dead at what was the construction site of the Northern Pacific Railway freight yards. Late in the afternoon, dynamite charges were put into place, as was customary, as scheduled to go off at 6 p.m. after grading crews had left for the day. But that day, more than 200 pounds of dynamite exploded prematurely, blowing apart several men and burying the rest under 400 to 500 cubic yards of pulverized rock. It happened at 5:40. The Spokane Falls Review printed on September 7th, "Many are dead." Initial reports were there were 35 victims, 8 bodies had been located, and 27 were still missing. It's 132 years later. I am with Katrina now at the intersection of Division and Sprague, which is quite notorious for traffic accidents, but that's a different podcast. It is now just about 5:40 on September 6th, and I'm interested to see exactly what we can capture as we turn on the Phasmabox.
Since I think
It's just about to turn 5:40.
And it landed.
think
Just the.
you know
I almost expected an explosion.
I kind of expected something, maybe a little bit of chaotic words or screaming or something.
The ground didn't even shake.
How disappointing.
Weather.
Are there any workers from 1890 here?
Failing to comply.
It almost sounded like something about a fire.
I heard something, but I couldn't quite make out. How did you die?
Joy like
Were you clearing rock for the freight yard? That's what it sounded like. Yes?
yeah.
Yep.
Really just
Who was the project contractor?
so full did they have it?
What was the name of the foreman?
Can anyone tell us about the explosion that happened in 1890? Sound like you say all four?
Yeah. All for what? Could this be residual where they're looking for workers?
It could be.
A lot of really good
That's a really good, almost sound like it said reason.
Yeah. Can you tell us your name, please?
I almost thought I heard, "Are they here?" And then somebody else kind of like quietly respond.
Yeah, I thought I heard, is anyone here?
Betrayed? Is anyone here with us from the explosion that happened?
It's only
I thought I heard it's only.
What happened in 1890 right here?
before
Frightened.
Yeah, the detail.
or digital.
I bet it was quite scary when the 200 pounds of explosions went off. Where did most of the crew live?
Where were you when the explosion happened? Were you really close to the explosion?
Yeah.
Where's James and Joseph?
Or in
Does anyone want to talk about the explosion of 1890?
like the school.
That male voice said something.
fucking black.
Zero system.
Previous.
What are you talking about? Did that just say explosion?
It kind of sounded like that, yeah.
Was there an explosion here? Find the solution. What are you looking for?
Like any.
Did you hear the male say something about looking?
I heard overcame,
Maybe that's it.
and
So
then... No, so... And then I thought there was something else that was said on top of it.
Mm-hmm.
But I didn't pick it
To
up.
really.
To really.
Now they're part of it.
Who is here speaking with us?
No, yes.
What year is it? Thought it said 1890.
I heard something. I heard a response. Can you tell us what year it is again?
I think that comes.
I think it comes next.
Should have done.
Should have done. Does anybody have any messages or any comments about the explosion? Is this area in chaos because of the explosion?
And the whole.
Almost sound like I said oath.
Yeah. Alright, I'm gonna go ahead and turn this off. Any final comments or messages?
Ceramic seal.
Alright, so that is the deadly disaster that occurred September 6th, 1890, at the intersection of what is now known as Division and Sprague in downtown Spokane. I did kind of rush through sharing this story, Katrina, and I apologize. I skipped over kind of what would be a vital part to know about the workers, because I realized that we were moments away from what could have been the explosion. I just really wanted to see if we would capture the residual boom or anything. So, would you like to hear the rest of the story?
Of course I would.
Little backwards.
That's why I'm here.
Little backwards Boo Crew case files here, if you will. Most of the men who died were immigrants of Austria, Hungary, Italy, and elsewhere, living in a poor area of Spokane, what is known as Shantytown back in that period. The project contractor, Smith and Howell, They paid for the burial of those men because the family really didn't exist for them to attend the funeral or to really pay for any burials. There were no individual headstones purchased for the men, but there's one monument for all 15 of the men who are buried in a mass grave at Greenwood Memorial Terrace in Spokane, and that stands today for those men who perished on the dreadful day in 1890. Two of the names for sure that I called out when asking questions, James McPherson and Joseph Ray. James was the foreman, and if I recall correctly, Joseph was the one that was packing the blasting powder.
Whew. Gosh, could you just imagine one misstep and all's lost?
I mean, really, I can't even imagine what it would have looked like placing the dynamite charges, knowing that in a few minutes the crowns would be clear, but all of a sudden just it all had that trickle effect and exploded. There was a previous moment where I had gone to Greenwood Memorial Terrace and tried to do a little scouting to see if there was anything around the headstone or around that memorial site. And I did capture an interesting piece when I asked who was the foreman. So I'll go ahead and play that clip here. Who was the foreman that day? Quite interesting about the fact that, when asking who was the foreman, it responded with, I was. I was looking for a name. The voice gave me an acknowledgement to the question, whether it was James McPherson or just something answering on his behalf. I don't know, but it was interesting nonetheless. So,
I find that it was very interesting as well.
I thought so.
It's always good to have things that tie together over a span of time.
Well, it's interesting when I go out sometimes and I'll do some of these scoutings at locations, or if I go to a headstone and I'm telling the story or trying to communicate and get responses, and you get some weird acknowledgement, like in this case, who was the foreman? I thought I'd get a James, or somebody would say James, and I get I was. That's not exactly what I was going for, but I mean, that was my takeaway, is that I got a response.
Yeah, sometimes you gotta take what you get with these spirits.
You can't always get a response on command, and when you do, it's quite interesting. Katrina, thank you so much for joining me here, the story of the deadly disaster.
Thanks for having me. It was a very interesting story.
Definitely one in history as far as the greatest disaster in Spokane. Thank you so much for listening to this episode of Boo Crew Case Files. Again, I am Bree Schroeder, your host. Join me as we explore more haunted Spokane history, as well as St. Ignatius patient, doctor, and nurses files.